Hey, this is Brent with Woods Counseling Services. Today on Therapy Matters, we're going to be exploring why should I even think about going to pay money to see this therapist? And why does that even matter? So we look forward to talking about this topic right after this. So I want to mention first, I know that I was going to talk about codependence versus ProDependence, but I feel like this is a more relevant topic, and I promise you that I will get to that topic in the future. It's very interesting. I'm still not all the way done with the book ProDependence. It's really interesting, and it does challenge a lot of the thought patterns that I've had as a therapist just on the codependence model. But without further ado, I do want to get to why does therapy matter to the point where I'm okay with paying money to go see this person. You know, why am I going to pay money to just go talk about my feelings or process this stuff? And so that does go along with what I talked about last episode, and what does the stigma associated with therapy have to do with it? And if you haven't watched it, go check it out. Talk about a lot of the stigma attached, which I will be expanding on in other episodes and stuff. So as a client, why should I pay someone to listen to my problems? While there's not a clear-cut answer to this, I think a lot of people get wrapped up in the fact that maybe they've gone to therapy before and it just didn't work, or they've gone to therapy maybe twice and it really wasn't working for them, or they weren't getting the results. So another thing that we have to explore within that context is, if you do go to therapy, you have to understand what the goals are with the therapy dynamic and what you're going to be working on, and realizing that in 2 sessions, a lot of things can't necessarily be fixed or worked on to the point where you would really hope that they would be. There is a form of therapy called brief therapy, which does take into account and work on problem situations in a very limited time frame. So you maybe get 6 sessions, sessions, right? So you get just a few sessions to be able to work through some of your problems. I'm not going to go into detail about what that is and how that operates. I normally don't necessarily do brief therapy with people, but let's take into account, let's say, trauma, right? Trauma therapy does take a long time, especially if you're working with PTSD, if you're doing EMDR, those types of therapies could take a long time, maybe even over a year. There's been cases where somebody's gone through EMDR for an extensive long time. But in those types of situations, you have to really be knowledgeable up front about what to expect about this process, and be invested in it, and be very communicative to your therapist about how you're feeling along the way, so that you can change the treatment plan if necessary. And so that is one thing that's so important in therapy, is addressing the treatment plan so that you and the therapist are on the same page. And even if the treatment plan is not necessarily a written treatment plan, it's always important to talk about with your therapist. So again, one of the things to address with why should I pay to go to therapy is knowing what you're up against. So if you go and you're going to shop for a car, and you're just saying, well, here's my money and I don't really know what I want. So, of course, the salesman's going to probably put you in something that you really don't want and you don't need. That's something to factor in. Know what you're getting into. Know what you're really getting invested in when you start the process. And so the second thing that I want to talk about is, if you've been going to therapy for a while, and let's say you lose traction and you're just not getting anything out of it anymore, well, again, you probably need to talk to your therapist about what's going on and how you're feeling. And even if you have the conversation with them when you go into a session and say, I just really didn't feel like coming today. Okay, well, that's something that the therapist needs to know, so that they can explore what that is and why that is, and maybe some things to do that you can change within the therapeutic process, so that you can work on those feelings. But again, sometimes you don't really feel good about going. It's not something you enjoy. It's not like you're going to a movie to see Star Wars or something. It's hard. Therapy's hard work, guys. It's not easy. And so you have to, again, like I said before, you have to know what you're getting into beforehand, before you start that process, so that you can be on the same page. Now, I say all of that to say, therapy really is worth it, and while it may not be for everyone, I do advocate that therapy is really important. Even if you've not been, or if you've been and it's not worked, maybe it just wasn't a good fit. Maybe it's something that you need to think about again. So then again, we have to revisit the question at the beginning is, why am I going to actually pay somebody to go do this stuff when maybe I could go for free? And I mentioned a little bit about this before in the first episode, but again, why would you go to your friend constantly and bombard them with your emotional needs and go to them with things that they're really not trained to help you with? So they might give you bad advice. They might be great. And so I do advocate for people to be able to develop trusting relationships and friendships, and go to other people, and also include in, if you have a pastor, go to your pastor about it, or go to some kind of person in the clergy, if you're in a church setting, or somebody in the community that you may be close to, that does give good advice, like a mentor or whatnot. Those people are great, but sometimes you need an unbiased point of view and somebody that's trained to work with the hard issues that maybe you're going to bring to the table. And so that is things that we are trained as licensed professional counselors to work with, is those tough situations. And you do have somebody that you don't know that's not going to necessarily give you bad advice. It's not our job to give advice anyway. It's our job to help you walk through and find solutions to those problems. Advice is just advice. It's not really based in factual things. And so we do therapy. So it's evidence-based treatment models. So cognitive behavioral therapy is an evidence-based treatment model. Things that have been researched, things that have been proven to work. That's what we're doing. We're not doing advice where you're just, I'm going to go to my therapist and get advice. No. So you're paying for all the training that we've been through, all the school that we've been to, everything that we've gone up to this point to get licensed. That all is included in us being licensed professional counselors, and jumping through all the hurdles that we've had to jump through is really, at the end of the day, to protect you, in making sure that we know what we're doing. So that is just a small amount of things when it comes to, why should I pay for this? You're not just paying for the hour that you sit down. You're paying for the hour that you sit down, plus you're paying for, all the things in the treatment planning process that has to be done when you're not sitting there. You're paying for all the trainings that we have to go to maintain our license, to get our license, all the school that we've gone to, so all of those things do factor in, and you have to remember that when you do go see a therapist, all of that stuff matters. It's not just the hour that you have to sit in front of someone. So I hope that you got a lot out of this. Definitely a lot more conversation to come with this and many other things. And I promise that I'm going to get to the codependence versus ProDependence. I just want to be a little bit more prepared for that, and continue to do a little bit more research so I can bring some factual information to you guys. So thanks for checking Therapy Matters. This is Brent, and I'll catch you on the next one.